10 top things I learned from my brother Wing Luke, and I will honor the time. I was very delighted to see that David Brewster was speak here today, because I was a teenager when I started hearing names like this in the news, in the work that my brother did. See, Wing was number 1 child and I was number 6, so there's 17 years between us. A lot of the things that I saw and learned and absorbed and put together of the things he did, it was really at a very young age when I wasn't even aware of how much I was learning those lessons. I was kind of like a sponge in the back seat, soaking in everything that I saw and did. And for a while there, I didn't like the terminology politics. I thought, ooh, politics, yeah, I didn't want to be involved. And it took me a very short time to recognize that if you do not understand politics and get involved, then you will have stuff done to you. And so I really recognize you gotta get involved. The lessons that I learned from Wing, some of them were things he said to me specifically. Other things I sorted through, analyzed, and interpreted in my own way after I recognized a lot of what he did. I mentioned 10 top lessons in life and politics. I will mostly talk about the first one because it is integral to all that he has done with the other lessons. And so the other lessons, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, or maybe even just the title, because I won't have time to share the story behind them, because Wing lived such a phenomenal life. Lesson number 1, to be successful, sane, and ethical in life and politics. There are 3 parts of your body that you have to have functional, preferably together. That's your brain, your heart, and your spine. To look at first the brain, Wing always said, read, 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 read. Learn from history what has happened, otherwise you will repeat some of the bad mistakes. And that's very much in line with a quote from George Santayana that said, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. I was doing some research for a project I'm working on. 2011 will mark 125 years the Chinese were driven out of Seattle. And I came across this one picture, and it was a piece talking about how in 1867 the Chinese were required to carry their identification with them and be asked at any time. Like shades of Arizona. I've been reading a lot about the challenges to Amendment 14, and I came across this research, a Supreme Court case of U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark, questioning whether being born in the U.S., whether he could be a citizen. 1898, they already decided, so leave it alone. Stop messing with the Amendment 14. The hard part, the passion of doing the greater good, and greater good not just for yourself, but the whole community at large. That's why Wing was involved in civil rights and human rights and causes that he felt some of the disenfranchised people didn't have a voice yet. And so he was involved in Indian fishing rights, alien land laws, and believe it or not, during the time when he was Assistant Attorney General, there were no human rights, civil rights boards or cases or appeals, and so he was very much involved. Spine. Wing sometimes had to stand alone on issues. For example, during his campaign, there were 3 different smear campaigns implying he was a communist, and he had to stand up to those. And I remember he was chuckling when this opponent yelled at him that he didn't have a Chinaman's chance to win this election. And Wing smiled. And he said, on the other hand, I'm the only one that has a Chinaman's chance of winning. And that leads to lesson 2, wit. Wit is having the intelligence of knowing something so well that you could state it in a way that even your opponents would be laughing along with you. He had that ability. And the big difference is with wit, you're not poking fun or ridiculing anyone. It's you getting people to laugh with, not laugh at. So laughing with. He had an incredible skill of doing that. People look forward to him being on the program to speaking. I mean, he was like a political rock star. He was like the Chinese Will Rogers. And he was so popular. People heard him. It really won them over. Lesson number 3, teach by example. First week that Wing was in the city council, he was told that he was to facilitate and chair citywide hearing that was broadcast live on television on open housing. Now, what was really telling about the example that he set was that after the hearing, 3 men came over to him to thank him because they said, "We know you are for open housing, but you treated us with respect. You let us have our say, and so we thank you for being fair." And so that's a real, true example, him teaching by example. Lesson 4, constantly build on the best self that you can be, because your character shows by what you do when you don't know what to do. Your character shows by what you do when you don't know what to do. Think back at emergencies that you have faced. Think back at crises that suddenly fell in your path. What did you do? Were you true to what you wanted yourself to do or say? Okay, lesson number 5. Keep your heritage, your language, and keep your culture, the role of diversity. Wing loved to celebrate everyone's culture and everyone's diversity. This really is the secret weapon if you're going to gain economically around the world. We are global citizens. Language is the key turning point to teach you the nuances about the culture and really calls upon you to make choices based on what you say and what you do by understanding and honoring language. Wayne told me that he used to have what's called International Supper Club, and he would research a culture, and they would go to a restaurant and they would be talking about the background, and in the end they would really celebrate. The cook and the owner would be there coming out to sing. Okay, lesson number, let's see, 6, the value of the language. Lesson number 7, the democratic process is not always the best approach. He said that when I was in junior high, and it blew my mind. I just had a civics lesson. What do you mean? He says, think about it. One person, one vote. Why did it take women so long to get the vote? What about people of color? If it's one person, one vote. Sometimes you need to make those decisions not based on one person, one vote. Lesson number 8, it's a time to be private and a time to be public. I'll share that experience in a written form later. Lesson number 9, if you don't like what happens, don't just complain and cry and criticize. Find a better way. Find a better way. And I remember a speech that Obama made that he was saying all this resistance and criticism that was happening. And he says, hey, if the other side has a better way, I'll take it. And so the issue is about solving the issue, not who wins out. And that leads to lesson number 10, because Wayne told me something that just seared in my